Antalya is the 8th most populous city in Turkey and the capital of its eponymous province, located on Anatolia's flourishing southwest coast bordered by the Taurus Mountains. Antalya is the largest Turkish city on the Mediterranean coast with over 1 million people in its metropolitan area. The city that is now Antalya was first settled around 200 BC by the Attalid dynasty of Pergamon, which was soon subdued by the Romans. Roman rule saw Antalya thrive, including the construction of several new monuments, such as Hadrian's Gate, and the proliferation of neighboring cities. The city has changed hands several times, including to the Byzantine Empire in 1207 and an expanding Ottoman Empire in 1391. Ottoman rule brought relative peace and stability for the next 500 years. The city was transferred to Italian suzerainty in the aftermath of World War I, but was recaptured by a newly independent Turkey in the War of Independence. Antalya is Turkey's biggest international sea resort, located on the Turkish Riviera. Large-scale development and governmental funding has promoted tourism. A record 12.5 million tourists passed through the city in 2014. Antalya was the host city for the 2015 G20 summit. It is currently hosting the Expo 2016. Etymology: the city was founded as Antalya, named after its founder Taurus II, king of Pergamon. This name, still in use in Greek, was later evolved in Turkish as Antalya and then Antalya. Antalya was also the name of a festival at Delphi, and Attalis was the name of an old Greek tribe at Athens. Despite the close similarity, there is no relationship to the name Anatolia. History: King Attalid II of Pergamon is looked on as founder of the city in about 150 BC. During the Hellenistic period, it was named Antalya or Italia in his honor. The city served as a naval base for Attalis's powerful fleet. Excavations in 2008 in the Dogu Garagi plot uncovered remains dating to the 3rd century BC, suggesting that Antalya was a rebuilding and expansion of an earlier town. Antalya became part of the Roman Republic in 133 BC when Attalus III, a nephew of Attalus II, bequeathed his kingdom to Rome at his death in 133 BC. The city grew and prospered during the ancient Roman period and was part of the Roman province of Pamphylia Secunda, whose capital was Perga. Christianity started to spread to the region even in the 1st century. Antalya was visited by Paul of Tarsus and Barnabas, as recorded in the Acts of the Apostles. Then they passed through Pisidia and came to Pamphylia, and when they had spoken the word in Perga, they went down to Antalya, and from there they sailed to Antioch. Some of the bishops attributed to the episcopal see of Antalya in Pamphylia may instead have been bishops of Antalya in Lydia, since Lequin lists them under both sees. No longer a residential bishopric, Antalya in Pamphylia is today listed by the Catholic Church as a titular see. The 13th century Seljuk Mosque at Antalya, now in ruins, had been a Christian Byzantine basilica from the 7th century. The Great Mosque had also been a Christian basilica, and the Keshik Minare Mosque had been the 5th century Christian church of the Panahira Virgin, and was decorated with finely carved marble. The Archaeological Museum at Antalya houses some sarcophagi and mosaics from nearby Perga and a casket of bones reputed to be those of Saint Nicholas, the Bishop of Myra, further down the turquoise coast. Antalya was a major city in the Byzantine Empire. It was the capital of the Byzantine theme of the Sabirayos, which occupied the southern coasts of Anatolia. According to the research of Speras Vriwanis, it was the major naval station on the southern Anatolian coast, a major commercial center, and the most convenient harbor between the Aegean Sea and Cyprus and points further east. Besides the local merchants, one could expect to see Armenians, Saracens, Jews, and Italians. Ottomans. At the time of the accession of John II Comnenus in 1118, Antalya was an isolated outpost surrounded by Turkish beyliks, accessible only by sea. Following the fall of Constantinople in 1204, Nictas Choniates records that one Aldobrandus, an Italian by birth who was strictly raised according to Roman tradition, controlled Antalya as his own fief. When Khosrow, Sultan of the Seljuk Turks, attempted to capture the city, Aldobrandus sent to Cyprus for help and received 200 Latin infantry who defeated the attackers after a siege of less than 16 days. The city and the surrounding region were conquered by the Seljuk Turks in the early 13th century. Antalya was the capital of the Turkish Beylik of Teki until its conquest by the Ottomans, except for a period of Cypriot rule between 1361 and 1373. The Arabic traveller Ibn Battuta, who visited the city in 1335 to 1340, noted, "From Alanya I went to Antalya, a most beautiful city. It covers an immense area and though of vast bulk is one of the most attractive towns to be seen anywhere, besides being exceedingly populous and well laid out. Each section of the inhabitants lives in a separate quarter. The Christian merchants live in a quarter of the town known as the Mina, and are surrounded by a wall, the gates of which are shut upon them from without at night and during the Friday service. The Greeks, who were its former inhabitants, lived by themselves in another quarter, the Jews in another, and the king and his court and Mamluks in another, each of these quarters being walled off likewise. The rest of the Muslims live in the main city. Round the whole town and all the quarters mentioned there is another great wall. The town contains orchards and produces fine fruits, including an admirable kind of apricot, called by them Kamar ad-Din, which has a sweet almond in its kernel. This fruit is dried and exported to Egypt, where it is regarded as a great luxury. In the second half of the 17th century, Evliya Çelebi wrote of a city of narrow streets containing 3,000 houses in 20 Turkish and 4 Greek neighborhoods. The town had grown beyond the city walls and the port was reported to hold up to 200 boats. In the 19th century, in common with most of Anatolia, its sovereign was area.The. The family of Tekeoglu, domiciled near Perj, had been reduced to submission in 1812 by Mahmud II, but continued to be a rival power to the Ottoman governor until the early 20th century, surviving by many years the fall of the other great beys of Anatolia. The records of the Levant Company, which maintained an agency in Antalya until 1825, documented the local beys. In the early 20th century, Antalya had 2 factories spinning and weaving cotton. As of 1920, the factories had 15,000 spindles and over 200 looms. A German-owned mill baled cotton. There were gin mills. In the 20th century, the population of Antalya increased as Turks from the Caucasus and the Balkans moved into Anatolia. The economy was centered on export that served the inland areas, particularly Konya. Antalya was picturesque rather than modern. The chief attraction for visitors was the city wall, and outside a promenade, a portion of which survives. The government offices and the houses of the higher classes were outside the walls. As of 1920, Antalya was reported as having a population of approximately 30,000. The harbour was described as small, and unsafe for vessels to visit in the winter. Antalya was exporting wheat, flour, sesame seeds, livestock, timber and charcoal. The latter two were often exported to Egypt and other goods to Italy or other Greek islands, who received mainly flour. In 1920, the city had 7 flour mills. Wheat was imported, and then processed in town before exportation. Antalya imported manufactured items, mainly from the United Kingdom. The city was occupied by the Italians from the end of the First World War until the founding of the Turkish Republic in 1923. Large-scale development beginning in the 1970s transformed Antalya from a pastoral town into one of Turkey's largest metropolitan areas. Much of this has been due to tourism, which expanded in the 21st century. In the 1985 singing diva Dalida held her last concert in Antalya. Mendes Turel of the AKP served as mayor between 2004 and 2009. The CHP candidate Mustafa Aydin replaced him in 2009. Geography. Climate. The area is shielded from the northerly winds by the Taurus Mountains. Antalya has a hot summer Mediterranean climate with hot and dry summers and mild and rainy winters. Around 300 days of the year are sunny, with nearly 3,000 hours of sunlight per year. The mean sea temperature ranges between 16 degrees Celsius in winter and 27 degrees Celsius in summer. The highest record air temperature reached 45 degrees Celsius in July, which normally averages as high as 34.4 degrees Celsius, and the lowest record dropped to -4 degrees Celsius in February, when the low average is as low as 6.1 degrees Celsius. The most recent census, the population of Antalya 2.2 to 2.562. Demographics. In 2010, the address-based birth recording system showed a metropolitan population of 1,001,318. Source for 1530 to 1889 economy. Agricultural production includes citrus fruits, cotton, cut flowers, olives, olive oil and bananas. Antalya metropolitan municipalities covered wholesale food market complex meets 65% of the fresh fruit and vegetable demand of the province. Since 2000, shipyards have been opened in Antalya Free Zone, specialized in building pleasure yachts. Some of these yards have advanced in composites boat building technology. Corendon Airlines and Sun Express are headquartered in Antalya. Cityscape. Despite having architectural heritage dating back up to Hellenistic times, most historical architecture in Antalya date to the medieval Ottoman period, with a number of mosques, madrasas, masjids, caravanserais, Turkish baths and tombs giving the city a Turkish Islamic character. Historical architecture is concentrated in the walled city, Kalaycı. Ancient structures are not well preserved in the rest of the city of Antalya, as the modern city was built on the ancient city, Kalaycı, with its narrow cobbled streets of historic Ottoman-era houses, is the old center of Antalya. With its hotels, bars, clubs, restaurants, and shopping, it has been restored to retain much of its historical character. It is surrounded by two walls in the shape of a horse nail, one of which is along the seafront, built in a continuous process from Hellenistic to Ottoman times. The historical harbor is located in this part of the city. Narrow streets extend from the harbor and branch off into the old city, surrounded by wooden historical houses. Cumhuriyet Square, the main square of the city and a spot very popular for tourists and locals, is surrounded by shopping and business centers and public buildings. There are sites with traces of Hellenistic, Roman, Byzantine, and Seljuk architecture and cultures. There are also examples of the local Greek architecture in the city, with 5 Greek Orthodox churches in the old city. The walled city is surrounded by a large metropolitan area, with high rates of immigration since 1970s. This area contains large Gecekondu neighborhoods that are not well integrated into the fabric of the city and suffer from poor economic conditions and insufficient education. Gerçekkondu areas are concentrated in the Kepez district, where an estimated 70% of the houses were Gerçekkondu in 2008. In 2011, it was estimated that there were 50–60,000 Gerçekkondu in Antalya, housing around 250,000 people. Antalya has beaches including Konyaaltı, Lara and Karpuz Kaldıran. Beylikdüzü and Saklıkent are used for winter sports. Historic sites in the city center. Ancient monuments include the city walls, Hadrian Tower, Hadrian's Gate, and the Clock Tower. Hadrian's Gate, constructed in the 2nd century by the Romans in honor of the Emperor Hadrian. Iskil Mosque, a 19th century mosque near the marina. Karate Medrese, a medrese built in 1250 by Emir Selahaddin Karate. Keshikmine Mosque, once a Roman temple then converted to a Byzantine Panalya church and finally into a mosque. Tekeli Mehmet Pasha Mosque, an 18th century mosque built in honor of Tekeli Mehmet Pasha. Jat Limani, the harbor dating to Roman era. Yevli Mine Mosque, built by the Seljuks and decorated with dark blue and turquoise tiles. This minaret eventually became the symbol of the city. Sites of interest: Tunek Hill, Karayaglu Park, Arapsu Bridge, Antalya Aquarium, Aqualand Antalya, Akadeniz Kent Parki, Hasan Subasi Culture Parki, Ataturk Parki, Duden Parki, Terra City, Laura, Şemel, Snow World, Wild Park Antalya, Duden Waterfalls, Kursunlu Waterfalls, Mark Antalya. Government. The Mayor of the Antalya Metropolitan Municipality is Mendes Turel of the AKP, in office since 2014. For general elections, Antalya elects 14 members of parliament to the Turkish National Assembly. Elections. Antalya has traditionally been seen as a stronghold for the Kemalist center-left party Republican People's Party. Being the capital of the 5th most populous province in Turkey, Antalya is politically strategic and has been a target for the governing center-right Justice and Development Party. The AKP unexpectedly won control of the Antalya Metropolitan Municipality in the 2004 local election. The AKP won a plurality in Antalya in the 2007 general election, symbolizing the city's political transformation from a CHP stronghold to a CHP-AKP marginal battleground in the 21st century. The loss of Antalya was a major political setback for the CHP, not only because of its significance as a center for tourism, but also because the CHP's former leader Deniz Baykal is a member of parliament for the province. The province is divided into 19 districts. The CHP regained control of the metropolitan municipality in the 2009 local elections, though the AKP won a plurality in the 2011 general election. The Nationalist Movement Party also have a strong political base in Antalya, winning approximately between 15 and 25% of the vote in elections since 2007. The city voted in favor of the AKP government's proposed constitutional reforms in the 2007 referendum, but voted against the reforms proposed in 2010. In the 2014 local elections, Antalya once again voted for the AKP, with the MHP taking support away from the CHP by winning a record 24.3% of the vote. The CHP subsequently accused the AKP of systematic electoral fraud, and the presence of government minister Mevlut Cavusoglu at one of the vote-counting centers drew strong condemnation. In the 2014 presidential election, the CHP and MHP's joint candidate Ekmelettin Hasanoglu won won 53.08% of the vote. The AKP's candidate Recep Tayyip Erdogan won 41.63% of the vote, and the HDP Democratic Socialist candidate Selahattin Demirtas won 5.30% of the vote. Antalya was a hotspot for the 2013-14 anti-government protests against the AKP. Sports. The football club of Antalya, Antalyaspor, plays in the Super League. The team's home venue is Antalya Arena, with a capacity of 33,000, which was opened in 2015. Another football venue in the city is Antalya Ataturk Stadium. The city hosts a number of international sports competitions due to its longer-lasting warm weather condition. Since 2006, one of the 4 stages of Archery World Cup events are held at the Antalya Centennial Archery Field. It also hosted European Weightlifting Championship in 2012, European Beach Volleyball Championship in 2003, European Triathlon Championship in 2013. Since 2010, an international multi-day trail running ultramarathon called Lycian Way Ultramarathon is held on the historical Lycian Way. The event runs eastward on a route of around 220 to 240 kilometers from Aludeniz in Fethiye district of Mughla province to Antalya in 6 days. Education. Akadeniz University enrolls over 60,000 students. There are international schools in the city: International Community College of Antalya, Eduant Private Russian School and International Russian School in Antalya. Culture. Cuisine. Antalya's signature cuisine includes piyaz, siskofta spicy hibes with mixed cumin and tahini, tandir kebab, damate sivasi, sakska, and various cold Mediterranean dishes with olive oil. One local speciality is tiramisu, boiled seeds of the lupin eaten as a snack. Grida is a fish common in local dishes. Festivals and events. Antalya Golden Orange Film Festival, National Film Festival usually held in September-October. International Eurasia Film Festival, annual International Film Festival, now part of the Golden Orange Festival. Antalya Television Awards, awarded annually since 2009. Antalya Festival, September. Mediterranean International Music Festival, October, 6 days. Antalya International Folk Music and Dance Festival Competition, last week of August. Aspendos International Opera and Ballet Festival, June and July. Flower Festival, May. Museums. Kalaichi Museum, opened in 2007 by the Mediterranean Civilizations Research Center. Ataturk's House Museum, Antalya Toy Museum. The Antalya Metropolitan Municipality opened the exhibition facility in 2011. Suna and Amp Inankirak Kalaichi Museum, an ethnographic museum run by the Suna and Inankirak Foundation. Transportation. The main transportation to the city is by air and land. Sea routes are still under development. In 2007, the airport added a new terminal. The city has a main port at the south of the Konyaaltı. Buses. There is a network of look-alike dolomuses that are privately owned and operated minibuses under municipal government control. Antalya Ulursum, a municipally owned corporation, runs the public bus system. The corporation owns Antobus and Antre. Antobus was started in September 2010. In 2010, the city planned to increase from 40 to 140 more buses. Payment for public transportation was made in cash until the launch of a public transportation card, Antcard, in late 2007. The card system met with criticism and was subsequently cancelled in June 2009, returning to a cash system. Halkit has been used for the transportation system since the summer of 2010. Halkit is managed by Kent Smart City Technologies under the control of Antalya Metropolitan Municipal Government. Passengers can use identified cards to take buses or trams. The Halkit system replaced by Antalya Cart, jointly owned by Metropolitan Municipality and Kent Cart in January 2016. Light rail A tram system opened in 1999, runs from Antalya Museum and the Sheraton Voyager and Fale hotels, along the main boulevard through the city centre at Calais RPC, Hadrian's Gate, Karelia Glue Park, and ending at Talya Attalid. Trams depart on the hour-and-a-half-hour from the terminal, and reach Calais RPC between 10 and 15 minutes later. In December 2009, a 11.1 km light rail line Antre was opened from one of the main city public bus hubs northwest beyond suburban areas and the zoo. An extension to Airport Aksu and Expo 2016 site is under construction. Major routes. Antalya is the southern terminus of European Route E87, which connects to Korkuteli, Denizli, Izmir, Çanakkale, Edirne in Turkey, alongside with Varna in Bulgaria, Constanța in Romania and Odessa in Ukraine. Antalya is also the terminus of Turkish Highway D650, which connects Burdur, Afyon, Kütahya and Sakarya. D400 connects with D650 in Antalya, while D650 alternative D685 connects to Isparta, and Provincial Road 0750 connects to Kumluca by Altınyaká, an alternative to D400. Airports. Antalya Airport has 2 international terminals and 1 domestic terminal. In 2007, its number of passengers on international flights surpassed the total number at Istanbul Ataturk Airport and Sabiha Gökçen International Airport, for the first time, officially earning the title of the capital of Turkish tourism. Twin towns, sister cities. Antalya is twinned with notable people from Antalya: Tarık Akil Top, architect, historian, poet, writer; Kaferkan Aksu, football player; Athenius of Antalya, physician and founder of the Pneumatist School of Medicine, 1st century AD; Michael Attaliades, Byzantine lawyer of the 11th century; Deniz Baykal, a former leader of Republican People's Party; Koskan Göcen, film actor; Onat Kutla, writer; Özgürkan Özkan, football player; Rustu Rikba, football player; Jagma Saragul, musician, composer of manga; Sumut İlmek, actor; Musa Suzinlo, actor; Burak Yilmaz, football player; Levent Yüksel, musician, composer.